Today I'm going to try to draw this beautiful scene from the hillside in Tallinn, Estonia. And although I spent a lot of time yesterday talking about how I'd be making a concerted effort to seek out more single subject references, whoops. Instead, I'm going for what will amount to be an overly ambitious attempt at whatever you'd call this, which is anything but a single subject. In my defense, I didn't say anything about ignoring these big scenes, so, it's fine. It'll be fine. I'll try again tomorrow. For today, though, I have a lot to consider for this drawing, so let's talk about it. First things first, I'm starting with what drew me to the scene, which was this overhanging branch. I thought that it looked pretty interesting and fun to draw, but primarily, and as is usually the case, I just wanted to make sure that I included it in the beginning. Had I started with something else, maybe the foreground, there's a chance that I could have lost myself in the drawing and left insufficient space for it. So I'm avoiding all that and drawing it in right away. However, I don't spend much time on it because once it has its place, I feel comfortable to move on to other areas of the scene. So after making some light lines for the bank opposite me, now I go to the foreground. And I wonder if it reminds you of any recent drawings, because it sure does remind me of the tree and all that similar foreground from video 39, which you should go watch if you haven't seen already. And I actually end up taking a similar approach to that one here. I'm making a lot of these quick vertical lines to suggest all of the grass. And on the paper, it's taking up a lot more space than what you're seeing in the reference because, as you can see in the drawing video, that foreground foliage is directly in front of me. I'm practically consumed by it. So while it looks relegated to the bottom right corner in the reference video, it's taking up much more space through my eyes in the moment and therefore takes up a lot more space on the paper. I'm sure there are 1,000 different ways to approach this kind of foliage, but this is what I went with today. I don't love what I end up doing here, and I kind of wish I'd been a bit more subtle. So I'll keep that in mind the next time I run into this kind of thing. I think that I could have added a lot more depth without all of the individual lines by maybe darkening areas here and there. And then maybe a few of those lines could poke their way out of the top or something like that. I'm not sure. I have a long way to go with this stuff. However, I think I know what direction to take it. Like yesterday's flowers, I think I can imply some density through shadows, which might have worked here, although it definitely would have taken a lot more of my time. Speaking of time, I've been playing around with the speed of the drawing videos, which I've mentioned before, and it's been a really useful tool for me. For these videos, I really don't want them to run on and on, especially considering the voiceover aspect. I don't have all that much to say. But I've also been cognizant of running out of time in the field, which is kind of stressful and makes for what I see as inferior drawings. I've considered long stretches of silence throughout the lengthier runtimes, but I find this kind of thing pretty boring, and also it can be pretty jarring. So I'm left with what I think of as two options. Option one, I just keep drawing within that 10-ish minute time frame, no matter what, which is mostly fine, but sometimes it's just implausible. Even as I get better, capable of drawing faster and faster, the complexity will likely evenly increase alongside my abilities, so I'll never really beat the clock. There will always be something new and time-consuming with which I'll have to contend. Second option, I sometimes take extra time to draw, and then I slightly increase the speed of the video. I still have to keep the time realistic. I don't want to sit out here for 45 minutes or something, partially because of what I've already said, but also because I just like to be good at drawing within a shorter time frame. I think a lot of the process could be lost if I were to speed it up to like 3 or 4 times speed. But at 1.5, which is what you're seeing here, I think that's fine. At the end of the day, I think it's by far the best option because it keeps everything else pretty smooth and consistent. And I get to relax a bit more into some of the more demanding or time-consuming drawings. I'd be interested to hear what you think about all this, but unless there's some glaring issue I'm unaware of, I think I'm going to continue experimenting with it. By never mentioning it, I guess it could be sort of disingenuous. I wouldn't want you to think that this is exactly my drawing speed or whatever. So, in no uncertain terms, may this be my formal announcement that I will sometimes utilize this tool as I see fit. Anyway, it's somewhere around here when a man, a stranger, walked up to us on the path and stayed a while. For about a minute, or what felt like 10 years to me, he stood behind me silently, just watching as I anxiously drew this tree. I was already feeling in over my head and that the tree was becoming a real pain in my you know what. But having this man, who I never actually saw, quietly hover over me did not make this any easier. Eventually, he pulled out his phone and showed my wife a photo he'd recently taken of this view that you're seeing now. And they went on to have a nice little chat about how much easier it is to do just that, to just take a picture. He said drawing takes so much time, which I very well knew. They stopped talking, which I assumed would release me from this panopticon prison, but no. I heard no footsteps, no farewell, just horrible, shrieking silence. His head could have been right beside me, for all I knew, just breathing down my neck. I loathe this part of the stupid process. Drawing outside can be peaceful, and I think it'll make me a better artist over time. But stuff like this, even though I know he's not doing anything wrong, if anything, he's being nice and just following his curiosity. But stuff like this makes me want to like drop everything, throw the sketchbook away, and swan dive into this pond in front of me. I don't think it'll bother me as I understand more and more of what I'm doing. But at this stage, and especially with this reference, I feel way too exposed, like I'm naked on stage. And there's nothing I can do about it. I've considered posting like a giant sign on my back that says beginner in big bold letters, or like, I'm just learning, please for the love of Christ, keep walking. But, what are you going to do about it? He's not doing anything wrong. I know that. And maybe more exposure like that will be a kind of therapy, and eventually I won't care, irrespective of the quality of the drawings. But fat chance. It's so uncomfortable. Right. So as you can see, I'm really feeling the pressure. I'm all over the place in all sorts of ways, and I know that this isn't going to turn out the way I'd hoped. I don't know how to imply all this water, so I do a few different things to no avail, although I think the squiggly poles were an okay idea. I'm also deeply unhappy with my tree, which is unfortunately the most significant part of the reference. However, the worst part, in my opinion, is the opposite side of the pond. It's so just simplistic and childish, and I wish I would have barely included it. I made that curve way too apparent and bold, and there's just no life in it. I regret not sticking with what I said yesterday and spending, I don't know, a few more minutes looking for something singular. This reference, while beautiful, was way over my head, included way too many components, and had this nuanced complexity that I just wasn't prepared for. I was completely ignorant. The depth, the contrast, the texture, the water, there are numerous elements here that honestly baffle me. They are baffling. The funny thing is that I didn't go into this thinking it would be like rising to some occasion, like really taking a chance. I just thought it seemed pretty and that the tree had some obvious shapes, like the curve of the background was neat and the foreground was like that other thing I did that other time. But when it all came together, it became something else entirely. And that something else I was clearly not ready to take on, which is, you know, indisputably apparent if you take one quick look at the paper. So yeah. This is an unfortunate example of a drawing that could probably be something with more time and attention, but I would not know what to do with it. That time and attention would be wasted on me. But the bones are there, the proportions are fine. I think it just needs some TLC that I can't give it. But I'm obviously interested to learn. That's why we're here. Slowly, and hopefully surely, I'll start to understand how I can take what I have here, this sad conclusion, and turn it into the beginning of something beautiful. We still have a long way to go, but there's plenty of time, and I'm just glad to have you following along. So here we are. It's something else. I don't need to describe it anymore. You can see it for yourself. What a way to reach 50 videos, huh? In all seriousness, we've made it to 50. Kind of a cool milestone. I'm happy to be solidifying this as a habit. And, as always, I'm just eager to see where it takes me. Anyway, leave a comment, like the video, subscribe to the channel. I appreciate you for taking the time, as always, to watch this one, and I'll see you tomorrow. Thanks.